hours, we're doing 24 hours for the live webcast. And okay, here's my credit card. And now I'm trying to like nail a $27,000 bill. And we're like, you guys are, it's like one of those AT&T plans. It's like, if we knew this was the case, we would have never signed up for it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just like looking at that in horror because there's all these other platforms you can actually broadcast for free on the web. So, it's a little bit of a nightmare. But so we got to figure out a better way of doing it rather than dealing with Ustream, because I don't think they're a very good platform.
Yeah, this one is really easy to use, and it's fairly cheap. So, I mean, it works through Twitch, so everything we do goes through there. So,
okay, we'll check out Twitch, because I hear Twitch is pretty good. So
they're fantastic, and they're really good about supporting companies and games and stuff like that. So it's really easy to work with them. So
okay.
I'm going to ask the question if everybody can see us, because from what I can tell, I can't see the broadcast coming up. So let me just see. Okay. All right. It looks like everybody can see us. I'm just not seeing it's showing as offline to me. I don't know why. But we'll get started. So
Okay.
Let me just double check one more time. All right. Cool. Let's get started. I just want to test one thing. Can you still hear me?
I hear you great.
Okay. I can't hear you. Let me do this. How is that? Is that better?
Sounds great to me. Both cases sounded great.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason, how about now? Can you still hear me? All right. I'm just testing my sound. Everybody's saying, all right. Yeah, I got to fix the setting on my speaker, unfortunately. But okay, cool. All right. Okay, so what's up, everybody? Happy holidays. My name is Gareth Fuller with MMORPG. This is Chris Roberts from Star Citizen and Roberts Space Industries.
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm really glad everybody's tuned in right now to check everything out. We're just running into one or two little quick tech difficulties, but we want to get this broadcast right and make sure everybody's doing well. So basically, we had a bunch of questions from the audience that we were really excited about on MMORPG, and also we're going to try to get some questions from chat as well if we can. So if you guys are in the chat room, definitely let us know if you have any questions or anything like that. But to get started, Chris, one of the big things we've discovered, especially on MMORPG, because of the site's name and everything, is a lot of people are asking if Star Citizen is actually an MMO. And I think one of the things you had said many times is there's definitely aspects of MMO back and forth. It's been a huge debate on our forums lately. So maybe you could comment now and see what, kind of give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say because I think it's sort of taken out of context. So as far as Star Citizen goes, the way I sort of view it is it has a lot of the things that work really well in an MMO in terms of being able to play with thousands, if ultimately not millions of people, and interact with them and have a great amount of fun in this big open universe. But it sort of avoids some of the things that you get in a typical MMO. So I think the way that the reason why it's being pitched that way is, when people think MMO, they think, okay, it's a monthly subscription. They think that you're stuck in a shard with 2,000 or 3,000 people, and all those people could be in the same city at the same time. And our Star Citizen doesn't work exactly that way, but it is a persistent universe that will allow the entire user base to venture around inside and, in most of the cases, interact or run across each other. So in terms of a sort of, an MMO in those lines, in terms of massively multiplayer, i.e. more than 10 or 12 people, it definitely is massively multiplayer. But the way it's structured and the mechanics are slightly different than a typical MMO, which is one of the reasons why we say it's not really just an MMO, because it's also a single player game. I mean, like, you can play it single player offline by yourself. You can play it in a sort of more limited multiplayer manner where you have maybe 10 or 12 people playing, or you can play it in the large manner where there's thousands or hundreds of thousands of people playing.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that in a lot of games lately with that type of tiered system. I know for us, we've always kind of stuck to the definition that MMOs are about a 60-person persistent world type of experience. So it's kind of interesting how we define it versus what
right. Well, but if that's your definition, then Star Citizen definitely is an MMO on certain levels. So I mean, when you single player side of it, it won't be an MMO. But you can expand, once you get in the persistent universe, it definitely will be an MMO because there will be at least that many people in the sort of public one that we host.
Awesome. I think somebody just posted in chat an MMO space sim. So there's a lot of thoughts on it. I think what I think is really cool about Star Citizen is you're not letting it fall into any kind of genre category specifically. I think there's so many aspects to the game that are really cool. That it's kind of cool that you're crossing these game styles as you're building the game.
No, cool. Yeah, no, I mean, 100%. I mean, essentially, the game that I'm building is the game that I want to play in the kind of style I want to play it. Mm-hmm. I sort of like bits of all these different kinds of games. I always think it's sort of silly that there's a hard line. You're a single player, or you're a multiplayer, or you're MMO, and I think that there's like really great things of all those sort of genres and aspects, and you can blend them. So I mean, I use it in many interviews. So probably everyone's tired of me talking about Demon's Souls, but Demon's Souls had like that really cool feature where it was ostensibly a single player game, but it sort of added in multiplayer aspects in a really great way, right? The community could leave messages for other players to tell them about good spots to hide out or good spots to snipe on and beware of this, or they could even leave messages that are misleading. And then other players could join into your world instance to help you defeat a boss monster, or other players could invade your world instance to try and take you out. And so there was sort of a nice like hybrid stuff that was going on there, and I really sort of liked that. It worked really well for me because it sort of felt like it did a lot of the best of both worlds. And so for me, Star Citizen isn't exactly that structure, but it's kind of that as an idea for me works really well. It's like, there's the bits that single player work really well for, and there's bits that multiplayer work or co-op works really well for, and I want to try and blend them all into one experience, that was the whole inspiration in Star Citizen.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's many times, playing so many MMOs all the time. There's a lot of times I'll break off and go, sit on the Xbox and experience something like a Skyrim, or that's just a single player type of experience. I think being able to switch back and forth with this game really is awesome. So that's kind of exciting. So that was a big debate on our forums. Now we can get to the questions. Bill will be very happy I asked that question, by the way. So the first question comes from Scott NS, and he says, will there be bigger fighter ships with crews so someone can fly, someone else can use guns, someone else can do repairs and shields and things like that? I know we kind of touched on this last time, but it may be worth kind of just re-answering a little bit to talk about for some people joining us for the first time tonight.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's the largest ships that you can even pledge for back in the campaign have they're bigger than one person can. You can fly them via one person, but you can also have your friends in them. So the Constellation, which is the sort of biggest pledge ship, the standard pledge ship, has enough room for 4 players. So one player can fly it, one player can fly the snub-nosed dog. Sorry, I got my dog. Thanks, Move, Plankton.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's sort of wandering around, so
that's all right.
Off that way, please. Sorry, guys. But no. So basically, one player could be flying the ship, one player can be flying the snub-nosed fighter that's inside the Constellation, and 2 players can be in the 2 turrets that you could have in the Constellation. So you could do most of all these things by yourself, but if you have your friends do it with you, it will be better because they'll just be better than say AI, or if you're trying to control the turrets and fly at the same time, that's a lot of stuff to do. So in general, you'll be able to multitask better if you have your friends helping you. And when you have damage on your ship and stuff on the bigger ships, there'll be definitely cases where you'll actually get up out of your seat and go back down to where the engine is and maybe do some manual fixing and stuff like that. So we're really trying to sort of have the interior of the ships that you fly, even if it's a single player, single person fighter, to a multi-person, much bigger ship, which is like the Constellation, which is kind of Millennium Falcon in size. You're able to sort of interact and fly it in the way you would imagine you would, if you were in the future flying one of these ships. So
right. No, I think that's cool. Yeah, I know a lot of people are excited about that. The next question goes into actually what we talked about just a few seconds ago with but Butch 808 asked this question. He said, how many people per server are we looking at for the persistent universe? He listed out a list of numbers. I think you gave the top number at one point, but I don't necessarily remember what it was. So maybe we can just touch on that a little bit.
Well, the idea is, that's what I was saying. So there is no concept of a fixed shard like you would in World of Warcraft. So every player will be in the same persistent universe. So think of that much more like the way EVE is,
right?
Than say World of Warcraft. And then the limit on the players in a single instance, that's sort of the issue. So in space, there'll probably be fewer players in a space instance than we'll maybe be able to put down on the planet and the planet side, because the planet side isn't, combat. It's sort of much slower paced. Looking for missions, upgrading your ship, buying goods to sell, all that kind of stuff. We're thinking that maybe the space-based instances will maybe be able to have 60 players tops, maybe 100 players. That's part of why we're going to do the alpha stress test in about a year's time for just the dogfighting. And the planet base could maybe have a couple hundred. So it all depends. So we're actually going to be all these different components, like the single-player stuff or even down on the planet. We're going to release very early preview builds, like that's why the alpha is in a year's time, where just that aspect goes to our community and they get to interact and play and give us feedback, and we can stress test it and see how many players we can fit in and still have it be a good experience. And so the whole idea is, while we go through the development, we'll be releasing little parts of the what will be ultimately the Big Star Citizen game in different components, and that will allow us to get feedback and balance and stress test it. So when we finally put everything together at the very end for the full persistent universe experience, when we roll into the beta for that and then later on to the live thing, we'll have basically balanced and tested and a whole bunch of the functionality that we need, and so hopefully it will be at the very end a little smoother when we sort of go live with the full experience.
Sure. I think it's a great idea. It's funny, the conversations I had with David Swafford recently, too, about allowing the community in early and testing different aspects of the game, even as early as alpha, is actually very beneficial for you guys and for your team.
No, we love it. I mean, even before alpha, just getting the feedback and response of our community. Just even when we release, we do today, we had sort of a screenshot shipping update, and we release every week we have sort of some fictional updates, and some of it's sort of character-driven fiction, and some of it's sort of more game mechanic-driven fiction, where we're actually sort of teasing out sort of gameplay features and mechanics that we're talking about, but in the fiction of our universe. And it's really great because you sort of see this and you're throwing out ideas and concepts there, and you're seeing what people like, what they respond to, what they want more of, and so it's very, very useful in terms of focusing, where our resources are going in terms of okay, well, people really like this thing, so let's make sure that we've got this one knocked away first, kind of thing. Right. I find it incredibly fun and invigorating process, because the people that have signed up, the people that have backed us, they love these kind of games, and so this is what they've been wanting to play for a long time, and so they are the best people to give you feedback. It's much better than to have a publisher give you feedback, or a publisher would recruit a focus group and recruit 40 people, and maybe there would be people that would play some space sims, but there'd also be people that wouldn't. And it's also a very small sample. 40 people is statistically not a good enough sample for when you eventually hope to have, say, millions of players. So. Yeah. So what we have now, where we have almost 100,000 people, or over 100,000 people, that's awesome, because that's a significant amount of people. So even though you don't listen to any individual person, when there's a general sort of voice of consensus, it probably means that that's going to be a general voice of consensus on the the full community once the game's finished as well. And so I think it's a great tool because it just prevents wasted development time and resources, and you know what to focus on. That's really good. So I'm enjoying it, and I know the rest of our team really likes it too because it's kind of fun, right? You build games for yourself, but you also build games for other people to play and have fun with. And so knowing that you're doing that and other people are appreciating this early on, sort of, it makes it much easier to get up in the morning and much easier to spend 16, 17 hours a day working on something like this because 16 or 17 hours a day to do right.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I think it's great. I think it's a testament to kind of the future style of development that hopefully we'll see, continue down the line.
No, definitely. That's kind of like I did this yesterday. I kind of like talked about Project Goddess and Elite Dangerous with my community, mainly just because I think this process is great, right? And I sort of look at the other guys doing it, and I'm going, yeah, this is how I think development will be kind of great and fun to do. And so the 22 Cans guys were, doing their daily updates. David Braben's doing his every couple of day updates, and engaging with the community, and I like that. I think it's sort of it's a really good model for the future of this kind of game or game developments. And so yeah, I kind of wanted to support it. I'm I don't know whether I've drunk the Kool-Aid or whatever it is, but I'm really enjoying it in a way that I wasn't enjoying development, back at the end of my days when I was doing stuff for Microsoft and stuff, just because it sort of feels like you're connected to people that really care about what you're doing. And even though when you made games, you always knew that you would, that was what ultimately you were making the games for. You're 3 years out. It takes, it's hard to keep the energy there, and now it sort of feels like, well, it's not difficult at all.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I think it's cool. We'll get back to a couple more questions because I do want to take some questions from chat as best we can. So next one is from Myopic Moose, and he says, has there been any work or direction established yet regarding squadron or guild support systems? To put in a traditional MMO sense, systems such as guild banks, common flight hangars, rewards, etc., that are kind of squadron or guild based.
Well, that's a high priority of the design. So we're actually going to do we're doing a rebuild on our site that will take probably about 2 or 3 months to do. Mm-hmm. But we're stripping so current site will exist, carry on going, but we're basically in the background starting construction on a completely custom site, because the vision is the site that you go and see the news updates and the comm links from us and the fictional updates, and that site, in terms of you logging on, your username, the friends you make, the clans or guilds or whatever else you would join, will translate 100% to the game. And we want you to be able, so there should be one login. There shouldn't be any difference between, when you're talking on the forums, it's the same character that you would see, in the, you would know or see in the universe. So there's a lot of the design on the site, and also in the game is going to go around features that encourage people to play together, work together, join groups together. You don't need to do that, but I definitely think it's kind of fun when you're playing with friends. I mean, for me, I like Battlefield 3 over Call of Duty because in multiplayer, because I like to play with a squad, and we work together to achieve an objective. So we're definitely building a lot of support into that, because we're also hoping that there'll be a fair amount of user-generated sort of content in the universe itself, in so much that we set up rules and we set up goals and objectives, and hopefully we'll have people that will sort of align themselves into various groups, whether it's a pirate or bounty hunters or mercenaries or whatever, where they sort of get together and work towards a common cause, and sort of creating stories inside our universe, and then we're adding in content and fiction on top of that to spice it up. So it should feel like this is sort of living universe, and having active groups going about their business. Whether it's a consortium trying to corner the market in a certain kind of mineral, or a group of pirates that are taking over an asteroid base right on the edge of a shipping lane, or a group of bounty hunters that have got together to go take the pirates out. All those things were just sort of, I'd like to have happening in the universe, because if you're playing just by yourself in a lone wolf manner, just having that sort of happen in the background with rules happening makes the universe sort of feel real and alive. And it's a big focus of that.
Cool. I think that answers everything. The next question is how fully featured is the FPS shipboarding parts of the game? With your use of CryEngine 3, I can't imagine it will be far off from, say, Crysis. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, no. It's I mean, the beauty of using CryEngine is that you basically, we're going to be building on Crysis 3 essentially from the first-person standpoint. So all the functionality you're going to see in Crysis 3, other than that we're not down on a planet in New York and all the rest of stuff, but in terms of sort of the first-person functionality, weapons, shooting, all that, is we sort of get for free because the system's already there. I mean, the weapon system's already in and everything else. So what we focus on, I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's easy to do the first-person boarding stuff, because the game works right now as a first-person game. Essentially, what's happening is most of the time you're just seeing me in my character, which I control in first-person mode, in a vehicle flying it, and we've just done a lot of work to extend the vehicle side of the first-person experience. But I can get out of my ship, I can wander around, I can take a gun out, I can shoot people, I can do stuff. All the AI, all the stuff that happens in the sort of CryEngine Crysis games is all right now in the build. So we get all that kind of free. So the things that we'll do on the first-person stuff is there'll be some extra customization and code for sort of the more zero-G environments. So we're going to let you sort of get outside your ship and maybe sort of spacewalk and enter through an airlock on another ship, which would be pretty cool. And I don't know if I could do decompression yet, but I mean, it'd be nice to give a shot at doing that. And then, we'll focus on sort of the weapons. So, instead of this typical sort of modern-day military weapons, it's going to be sort of energy weapons and the effects and content for that. But in terms of the actual code and the functionality, most of the first-person stuff already exists right now in the prototype that I showed, which is great because we've got all that and we're really just sort of building on top of it.
Okay, cool. We'll go to the next one, which is a lot of people are asking about pirates. I think you're going to have quite a pirate community out there. Someone, Demon Messiah, says, also wondering about pirate NPC ships, whether it will be possible to hijack NPC freighters or fighters, or only other types of player ships, if there's going to be NPC pirates basically out in the universe. And is there some kind of plan to keep the requirement that only ships larger than 2 crew can be hijacked? Without boarding it actually like that. So I guess it's really talking about hijacking NPC freighters and pirate ships. Is that going to be part of the system?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's kind of hard to hijack a one-person craft. But so basically the way the system works is that there is NPCs, AI, as well as players. And what will happen is, like if you're hanging out, if I'm a player pirate and I want to hijack, merchants, and in a certain area in a trade lane, if there aren't players going by at that time, we'll have a rating of a trade lane and say, well, this trade lane has so many ships go by, and if there's a player happening to pass by there, then it will be a player that you could come in and try and hijack. But if there isn't a player, we'll probably be putting an NPC pilot in there. So it's kind of the idea is the universe goes on whether or not the players are there. So heaven forbid we don't really get a lot of people sign up for the game. I think we will, but if we didn't, it should hopefully feel as populated. It just will be much more a PvE environment, if you get what I mean. And then the more players there are, the more those roles basically just get taken. It doesn't spawn an NPC pirate. There's a real player pirate hanging out there, so he's taking that role over. And so that's kind of the way we're sort of looking at it. But you should be able to. There will be cases where, if you're a pirate, you can definitely be hijacking NPC ships as well as a player ship. And partly that's going to depend on what your preference is in versus PvP versus PvE, and also what areas of the galaxy you're in. So if you're in sort of an area that has a high degree of law and order, it's not that you can't engage in PvP, but you probably don't want to, because if you do, you risk getting caught, and then everybody will sort of come after you, including NPCs, but also other players. So once someone's sort of wanted as a sort of a PvPer in a area they shouldn't necessarily be PvPing, then it's sort of PvP against them is authorized, if you know what I mean. So the bounty hunter can attack them without getting in trouble with the law, because he's authorized to go after that pirate that was engaging in unlawful PvP, basically in a safe area. And then, of course, there's areas in the galaxy that will just be sort of all no holds barred. There won't be any law and order, and I'm suspecting in those areas there will be a lot more PvP. But of course, there still will be NPC ships and stuff flying around because, like I said, you need to keep the universe alive. So if there aren't players flying around at that time, we will basically have a rating of everyone saying, okay, well, every whatever it is, every 10 minutes a merchant comes through this jump point on his way to this other system, and so if there are players, we obviously put a player in there, but if there isn't, we'll generate an NPC instead.
Cool. No, I think it's like you said, it gives it a very living, breathing universe type of feel, which is I think what everybody's looking for. So the next question, this is a good one because this is about Wing Commander. It says one of my favorite things about Wing Commander 3 was making quote making the rounds on the TCS victory meeting and conversing with the crew. I love learning more about the universe directly from the characters. Any chance we'll have a more expanded style conversion system for Squadron 42? I'd love to converse with some of the aliens and things like that.
Well, no, definitely. So, I mean, I think, think of what Wing Commander 1 was, but a lot more sort of visually stunning and cinematic. But you'll definitely be able to talk to the wingmen aboard the ship and interact with them. I've got some ideas of how I'm going to do it in the mode because I'm not a big fan of sort of the Mass Effect BioWare massive conversation trees.
Right.
Mainly just because I feel like I had to tick off every single option just to make sure I did anything.
No comment on that.
It defeated the purpose for me. I sort of feel like I should have a conversation and should feel good about my conversation.
Yeah.
But you will definitely do that, and even down on the planets and Star Citizen, you'll do that. I mean, so we're going to dress up, the meeting and talking specifically to NPCs, but I'm going to try and do our best even on the player characters, where it's sort of in, it's sort of in that first-person kind of vibe or mode. So if you saw a little bit of, there was that little test we did. We showed sort of the landing pad in the 3D environment in the CryEngine, and it's going to be like that when you're down on in the planets in the area where So we're not building out the whole city, or we're not building out the whole world, but like when you land, the landing pad, your ship will be there. There'll be the bar. There'll be the ship dealer. There'll be and there'll be locations that won't be the same location every place, but you can have in bigger cities there could be a dark alleyway. You go down to a special place. You knock on a door and they let you in, and that's where you buy the contraband or sell the contraband. So it'll be a little sense wherever you land around. It'll be kind of like a little bit of a first-person adventure-y side to it. There won't be any combat, but you'll be able to converse and talk. So you'll get a gossip. You maybe get a lead for a good place to go to. Look for minerals or get a tip on, a decent price that's happening, in a part of the galaxy to buy some commodities. So I'm going to try and keep you in this sort of sense of being in this universe. I don't want it to feel like I'm looking at like a web page or looking at a menu system or anything like that. So we're going to dress it up very much the way Wing Commander was dressed up. Like if you remember Wing Commander, there was no sense of menus. If you wanted to save, you clicked on the bunk bed in the barracks. You talked on the shot glass, the bartender to get some gossip. You would click on the wingman that would be sitting at the table to get some conversation about what was going on. So very much that idea, but brought forward to today's world and today's sort of what we can do in CryEngine, so it's a bit more immersive. But that will be in Star Citizen and in Squadron 42.
Cool. The next question, this is kind of funny actually, comes from Lotus King, and I guess he's asking. I wanted to know if there will be robots like R2 or C-3PO to man turrets and protect the ship against border raids. If so, will these bots have different strength levels and can be purchased, for different reasons like targeting or, it seems like there's a whole lot of different ideas behind the idea of robots helping you out. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we already have a repair droid that we gave to everyone. I can't remember at what level. We gave I think maybe everyone got a repair droid up until $1 million of Kickstarter. I can't remember. But anyway, we've given, so we're definitely going to have droids, like whether deployed droids, repair droids and everything else. And as far as the ship goes, on the bigger ships, we're definitely going to have NPCs that you can sort of hire. I may do it on some of the smaller ships like the Constellation. I'm not 100% sure yet. But essentially it's crew. So like a robot would be like a crew that you would hire to do stuff, and there would just be an AI similar to the AI characters that you would like encounter a fight if it was just an AI ship. but of course they're under your command. And they could be manning the turret, and they'll man the turret as well as they can man it. Won't ever be as good as a real player doing it, but they'll do a decent job. So you'll be able to have those kind of roles, I think, and also set your turret to auto. So some of the turrets just have auto modes where like they'll automatically look for have a certain turn rate and all the rest of the stuff, or you can control the turret remotely. So all those things are definitely possible. On the bigger ships, there will be, like I said, the NPCs, and I haven't made a decision whether we're going to allow you to do that down on the Constellation or the Freelancer, but who knows. So if it all works, the system works well, then I probably would do that. But that's still some of the stuff that we're having to proof of concept on the technical side. But that will be my goal.
Sure. Cool. The next question is about the kind of how you can mod ships. It says the person asks, ships are said to be modular and moddable. Does this include an internal layout? So is there some kind of way that a player can actually customize the internal cockpit of their ship, and how might that work?
Well, you're certainly going to be able to upgrade avionics systems and stuff. So, like, you'll be able to upgrade to a better targeting computer and stuff like that, and you will see a visual difference in your cockpit when you sort of upgrade bits of it. So there's definitely that, and we're definitely going to let you have things to add, like in your bigger ships or even in your cockpit, where you can put, personalize it, whatever it is, fluffy dice. I'm not saying it's fluffy dice.
Sure.
Yeah, there's like some stuff that's just cosmetic because I think it looks cool, and then there's some stuff that's functional, like a better targeting system or a better radar system, and you can customize those, and you'll see the visual difference. So it's that it won't. Well, if you've upgraded your cockpit, you'll sit in the cockpit will have parts of it that will be now different.
Cool. The next question is actually kind of goes along a little bit with that, but it extends it out. This person, Romansky7, is asking, will there be a space garage where you can park and admire your ship collection? And can we establish a home base we can operate from? Things like that.
So there definitely is going to be a garage that you can see your ship collection in. It's something that I think would be cool, and I'll give you a little bit of a exclusive break here, but I'm planning to probably release a app for people that will let them hang out in their hangar and look at the ships they've bought. So when we got to the point that all the ships are in the engine, and I can do that, it'll probably be before the single-player game actually, the single-player alpha comes out. I'm going to let our backers have that app so they can sit around and look around at their ships and walk around them, which I think will be very cool. But there's definitely going to be a situation where you can look around your hangar, you could invite your friends to come and hang out and look at your ships, and like I said, you can decorate the inside of the bigger ones, and I think even that will be kind of just like a fun little whatever Sims style thing that you can do. But yeah, it's cool because those are your characters, right? I mean, in the game, ships are definitely your characters, and so people are naming them, and they'll be customizing them for different, whether it's dogfighting or piracy or exploration or being a smuggler. So yeah, I think you definitely want to have a hangar that shows stuff. The way I was thinking of it is where players would specify what their home base is, so to speak, and all their ships, besides the ones they're flying around, are like in a hangar on that home base. Just like if you were really rich and had a bunch of planes, you probably wherever you live, you've rented a hangar at the local airport, and you may be off. You've flown the other side of the world, but the rest of your planes are back in the hangar. So I was kind of thinking you would specify sort of like what your home planet was, and that's where the rest of your ships would sit on the hangar, and then you would have to fly back to it to get to fly one of your other ships, or if you got destroyed or died, that's kind of like where you would default to sort of almost getting back to fly your next ship.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I feel like we should apologize, or I should apologize to Dave for you giving us the idea on the hour. So, but he'll be all right. That's PR, marketing. The last question we have from the players, and I want to take a few minutes to try to get some questions from chat, is how will the in-game market system work? There are a variety of skills that could expand the number of orders. range of orders, the ability to modify them, the rates at which they are taxed. This is all kind of in reference to Eve. We got a lot of Eve fans on our site, so I think people are really curious how kind of the market system is going to work, and will NPCs and players be able to compete in the markets for buying and selling and transporting of items and things like that?
Well, no, definitely. So I mean, it's going to be a dynamic economy. So there's supply and demand will have an effect. An industrial planet will only have a demand for so many minerals per cycle or whatever. So too many people show up with it. The prices are going to get driven down, and at a certain point, they're just going to stop buying. Same goes on the flip side. And like I was saying, we're going to have essentially AI or NPC trading runs, and what happens is kind of like the default state of the universe will be, imagine no players in it, and we've got the rules running, and AIs are running all the trade routes and doing their stuff. And then as players sort of are playing, they're basically bumping an AI out of like one of their slots. And so yes, in a certain side, they will be competing with AI pilots, because there'll be a certain number of them that will be flying and buying and selling stuff. So there's definitely going to be all of that happening, and I mean, it's going to be interesting because we got some other ideas that we're going to be doing. So obviously there's some balancing issues, but I think if you do the system right, then I think it's pretty good. I mean, I think it's one of the things that has sustained Eve for as long as it has, is that it's a system that works fairly well, and the players themselves are sort of almost like generating the content for the game.
Yeah, it's true. It's a game. I think it's a good game. Like I said, we have a lot of fans on our site for it. So a couple of questions from chat that I'll go through real quick. We've got a few minutes left. Basically we have a question from Chaos WizKid. He's asking. He said one of the features he really wanted to see in Freelancer was, is it possible to control portions of a planet or portions of a city or things like that in terms of actions? Is that something you might think about putting in, or is it a possibility?
Well, I don't think for the initial release. I mean, definitely there's going to be locations in space that are sort of persistent. Mm-hmm. So mentioning an asteroid base that like a pirate clan can take over. Well, there'll be an asteroid, like an asteroid that you can turn into a base in an asteroid field. It's close to a trading lane. That's a persistent location. So a group of people could go and take that over, and they control it, but they never own it like permanently, because someone else can come in and basically kick them off it, and then they control it, right? So if I have a ship like the Hornet or the Constellation, I land it down on a planet, it's safe. No one can steal it from me there. But anything that's sort of in space, that's a bigger thing, like an asteroid base or a big capital ship, they never can sort of be safe, so to speak. So they're always at risk of being taken over by someone else. Now, of course, you could take your bigger capital ship into a area that has a lot of law and order, and you're probably not going to get attacked, and you'll be fairly safe there. But there's never a place where you can log off and your asteroid base will be safe. So if you can buy, that's where NPCs come in, auto turrets come in. But essentially, if you're a group of people and you're a pirate clan, then maybe you need to figure out people that do the night watch or whatever, in case someone else decides they want to take your territory. And so we're going to have various flashpoints like that around the universe that hopefully will be sort of encouraging conflict. You don't need these places, but every clan likes to have its, they're like, this is my badass pirate base.
Of course.
So that's kind of the so in terms of controlling areas, right now in the design, that's where the control of the areas is. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't rule out in the future maybe doing something on the planets, but it won't be on the initial release.
Right. Okay. Cool. The guys in chat they're asking for a constellation video for Christmas. They want to see it. So there you go. It's a little request.
I can't give a constellation video for Christmas, but we will. I mean, the plan is, by the way, on all our ships, we're building out to the level of detail that they've seen the constellation. So right now, the constellation has finished its conceptual 3D level, and it's in sort of game production right now. I mean, think of this as like, I don't know, like we're Boeing and we're going through the production line. So what's now is the game artists are taking it, they're cleaning up the mesh for the game to make it as efficient as possible. They're not reducing the faces, they're just sort of cleaning up some, like a lot of times the conceptual guys, when they model, they just slap a lot of faces together kind of messily because they're just getting the image, and there's things where you want to clean up. So faces you're not seeing, you get rid of and stuff like that. So they clean up the mesh, then they're going to texture it, and then we'll bring it in the engine and rig it so all the bits animate. And then at that point, once we do that with all our ships, we're going to do basically a promotional video. So if you think about like if you go on the YouTube and Google for like Boeing's videos on F-35s or whatever, we're going to do one of those for every one of the player ships that you can get. So probably, first up we'll do one for the Hornet once we've got the civilian modifications for it, and we're going to do one for the Constellation. But all this takes a while to do all these things, so probably you could look for Constellation video, I would think, in February, based on just kind of how long it takes and the Christmas holidays and everything.
Of course, of course. One of the questions that's been streaming by a couple times that I wanted to ask, and unfortunately we have to end with this one, but I think come the new year we'll probably do a couple more interviews coming up. But is Star Citizen going to be a single account or a multiple account game? And that seems to be a big question out there. I think because from my standpoint, the way I look at it is I would love to play as a pirate, kind of smuggler. But I'd also love to be able to switch and go in as some kind of, Squadron 42, military defense type of person who, flies around and helps people, things like that. So that's just a question of how that might work for players.
Yeah, I mean, so we haven't decided on the game side itself. I mean, it's more a matter of the technical stuff on a sort of logical standpoint. I completely concede some people want to be pirates, some people want to be, they basically want to be a bad person and a good person, and obviously they don't want to mix those two characters because, there's a lot of work that goes from, like, if you're being a pirate and you want to go walk the straight and narrow, it costs a lot of money and time and effort to do that. So, someone has their evil side and the good side. If you want to have the stereotypical, the cliched version of it. I think on the multiple account side, I'm not against it at all. The only reason I'm not making any promises right now is it sort of depends on sort of the MMO infrastructure that happens as far as that goes in terms of how the account management happens. Mm-hmm. For me, I think it's a perfectly legitimate. I mean, I don't know how you don't really block it anyway, even if you say, no, you can only have one character per account, because then someone just creates another email address and joins up. So it's sort of you know what I'm saying? It's like a bit of it's a bit of a moot thing. All you're doing, you're never going to stop them, because unless you're like tracing an IP and saying there can only ever be one player character from this IP, you can't prevent people from having multiple signups, even if they can only have one character per account, because they'll just create multiple accounts. I mean, I think in EVE, right? You create multiple accounts. You can't have multiple characters per account, right?
I think so. Yeah, it's been a while since I played.
As far as I remember, I could be wrong, so I'm sure all you people will correct me. But like I said, people create the multiple accounts anyway. So I tend to go for reducing the player friction, so not making it as difficult for them as possible. I'd rather just make it easy for them. So assuming it works inside. It doesn't have structural problems, right? Because sometimes you have unique login issues, and there's some other things that are sort of more that kind of like very boring MMO backend kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem, because I don't see you actually stopping a player from being able to have multiple accounts in any way anyway. They would just create another account. So and I recognize that people would sometimes like to have, today I'm being the evil pirate Bob, and tomorrow I'm going to be the white hat saver of the universe.
It's true. Listen, we gotta stop a little early today, guys. But I can't thank Chris enough for joining us. It's been a fantastic month, Chris. We're happy to do 2 of these in a month, and I'm very lucky to get your time.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy holidays. We can't wait for 2013 for the alpha test with Star Citizen and to see what's coming from you guys. We're really excited.
Yeah, that's Christmas next year, so hopefully it'll be a good Christmas.
There you go. Christmas next year. That's not that long, right? We got plenty to look forward to.
Yeah, no. From my side, it's not going to be long at all.
Great.
I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe I promised it Christmas. Great.
Yeah.
We'll do it. So, no.
It sounds good.
Right.
Good. Great. Thanks again, Chris. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to be starting up in a few minutes with Guild Wars 2, actually at 6 o'clock with Bill Murphy. So I got to remind everybody Bill's getting on in a few minutes. Chris, thanks again, man. Have a great holiday. I'll definitely touch base with you in January.
Happy holiday to you and all the backers of Star Citizen. So thank you very much.
Great. Cheers. Have a great night.
All right, bye.